You're now listening to the Lycaeus Frequency. Well. Welcome back to the Lycaeus Frequency. Tonight, a returning co-host.
Hello.
Yeah.
Did you need me to introduce myself?
No, I think those of us who have listened for long enough will know your name by your voice alone. But tonight we are delving into a subject you seem to be very interested in.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, the Hypnagogic Archive, or Gogic, I don't know. The pronunciation is kind of all over the place.
Hypnagogic sounds better.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. Anyways, a kind southern gentleman passed along some interesting things about this. Apparently, there's an interconnected story between these. I'd have to look into it closer.
Interconnected?
Yeah, interconnected. What is up with this mic?
Well.
Yeah. Anyways, tonight's story is called In for a Penny. And it was originally posted to hardfact.com, November 9th, 2000. So, starting off here. Section, Gerald's Diary. Hey, all you webfarers. Welcome to this section of hardfact.com, your number one source for the facts. This is Gerald. I'm one of our senior staff. To tell you the truth, our offices are a little more than our dorm room, and we paid for the web hosting a few days ago, but our intentions are sincere. We want to bring the truth to you at any cost. And that includes going places other sources won't. I'm one of the editors and investigators. We'll delve into corruption on a governmental level, corruption on a corporate level, and we'll also be fact-checking rumors. We are not a conspiracy theory or misinformation site, only a group of dedicated people doing what we think is right. My friend Hugh says that he's going to use some of his articles to write a study on the implementation of the internet in mob persecution. I'm only here for the ride, but it could be an exciting ride, and I'm ready for whatever lies on the road ahead. Hugh has sunk a lot of money into this project.
So sorry to interrupt. What did it start out with? Is this a diary?
Yes. Gerald's Diary. This is my personal section of the site, where I share my thoughts and opinions on daily life, away from the more intense documentation of the news and headlines pages. If you found us through NewsRat directory, please let us know your experience with them. We've emailed several directories and are still settling down on which one will provide us with the most traffic. Also, if you want to make a donation, please send a check or money order to the address provided on our contact page. We really appreciate your support. If you have any stories you think are close to breaking, tip us off. We will follow any leads. Entry 1. What's up, Internet? I have some updates I think you'll probably be interested in. Maybe not, but hey, this is my journal and I can write whatever I want here. First of all, Isaiah has set up what he calls the command console in the corner of our dorm. He went out and bought a pretty massive hard drive, filled it with search indexes and other resources, and we also have a file cabinet. I think he's wasted his money, but he says he has an uncle at the local office store and he's able to coax a sizable, coax. That's not coax. Technical jargon. And he's able to coax a sizable discount from the guy sometimes. Hugh says it'll be fine so long as we record it as a business expense. I've been looking over the list of potential leads Isaiah has compiled, and we also have a bulletin board set up where we can assign responsibilities and calendars and things like that. We're getting into the swing of things. The larger development is that Hugh found something in the library on the microfilm. It's the university publication from 1971. Most of it's pretty routine, but he says he saw something for a second, and then they closed, and he had to put the film back. But he'll be going back tomorrow. I trust him when he says it's something big. During his freshman year, I understood he took a course in civics, and he says that it changed the way he looks at what he refers to in an ominous tone as the government body. Be sure to check out any new articles on the main page for further developments. Yep. Entry 2. We've had a new gallery section. Currently, our host will only allow JPEG files with less than 400 kilobytes, but we do plan on using a separate image host with more room. If you want to vote on what we should do, or don't really care about photos that much, go ahead and take the survey we provided. Also, please email us if you find anything strange. Remember, we would always love to investigate. Entry 3. He went back and said the microfilm was gone. He asked the head librarian, Mr. McCluskey, who says that it was checked out before Hugh was able to get there in the morning. The good news is, Isaiah has been able to get Hugh to admit what he saw on the film. He was hesitant about it at first. I guess anyone would be. And the details he caught in those few seconds were kind of sparse, but he was able to make out this much. This article from 1971 was written by a female student who was expressing concerns about men in suits who would pull up onto campus in a white van, get out in the parking lot, and enter the main office. Then, according to her, they would spend at least an hour with the chief administrator. She was hesitant to give many details about their appearance or body language, but Hugh says that near the bottom of the page, she mentions that one night, she's walking to a sorority party, and one of these men approaches her and asks her if she's seen anything out of the ordinary. And of course, she has no idea what he's referring to, so he makes kind of a sign in the air with his hands and then runs away toward the lot where one of those generic white vans is waiting for him. And he then slides the door open and they drive off. She felt it was important to share her experience because she thought they may have been some gang. But Isaiah says they sound more like feds, and I have to agree. The other really strange part is that Hugh decided to check if they had a print copy of the specific edition, so he combed through the racks for 1971. He says he's positive it was that year. And usually the library keeps very extensive records of the publication, every issue going all the way back to before the turn of the century. But for 1871, they had a missing issue. Usually there are 8 issues every year, only 7 for 1971. And he asked McCluskey, who says nobody had checked out one of the print copies in decades. So either they're holding this article back, or they're just very bad at keeping records. Either way, it's an interesting story and worth keeping our eyes on. We'll report back soon.
That sounds like a Men in Black situation.
Yeah, a little bit. I think that's where this is going. Let's see if you're right. Entry 4. Today I decided to check out the chief administrator's office and see how much has changed in the last few decades. The door was sealed off with wire across the front and locked with a deadbolt. According to the placard, his name is Michael Wilcox. Couldn't still be the same guy. It was dusty inside, just a ray of light coming in through the window and not much else. One desk, a bookshelf, what seemed to be a mini fridge. After this, I decided to go around campus for a while, hang up flyers for Hard Fact. Hugh says that if we don't make our presence known, we won't amass the same kind of prestige and other presence that other weblogs do. So about a week back, just to start things off, me and Isaiah passed some links out. They're messily scrawled out in pen so as to be more intriguing. Today was one of those days that you only get during the fall here. Sidewalk covered in maple and oak leaves. You see all these couples walking around and crunching through them, holding hands and smiling. Sometimes I wonder why I haven't looked for a girlfriend. Maybe I just don't have the prerogative. After I finished this, I went down to the King's Inn to get a drink and some hamburgers and to bring back to the dorm. And while I was in there, it was really busy. Everything was brown. It was hard to make out what was going on. It's usually not that rowdy in the afternoon. I go up to the bar and ask for a Coors, but he says they're all out, and that there must have been some kind of shortage. I'm in a bad mood by this point. Usually when I'm walking around on my own, I prefer to do it buzzed. So I get some hamburgers and some onion rings and take them back to the dorm. And he was out for classes and Isaiah was asleep. Didn't bother waking him up. That's all I've done for now. I keep thinking about that girl in the van. Can't get it out of my head.
Ooh, someone has a crush.
Yeah, on a woman 30 years ago.
Why not?
I don't think he hasn't even seen her.
Listen, I know some people who are obsessed with singers from like the 1950s.
Yeah, but there were pictures. Yeah, but there were pictures of him. We don't even. He doesn't even know who this person looks like.
Love, man. Oh my god.
That's how I feel about that. Anyways, entry 5. I woke up with a headache, and he was on his computer listening to a CD. It was about 7 a.m., so we decided to walk to the library together and see if the microphone had been returned yet. When we got there, it said it was closed for repairs and that we should check back soon. So we just sat on the bench in the main square for a while, watching time pass us by. I don't have any classes until noon, so mornings are pretty slow unless I go on a bender the night before and sleep in. Hugh left me about 11. He said he had something to check up on. I told him I'd see him later. I got to my journalism course, and the professor was late by a wide margin. She comes in, takes off her glasses, hangs up her coat. It's only about 20 degrees out. And from there, she talks to us about how to properly format an article. I usually take extensive notes during this part, but for whatever reason, I was feeling out of it and decided to just try and remember most of it. We were given a guidebook from the New York Times on which kind of language is appropriate and the proper font and everything, which is helpful if I ever get hired by any national syndicate. My current expectations are to work on hard fact for a few more years until it becomes big enough that I can add it to my resume. The professor calls me over to stay after class, and then she shuts the door. I wonder if she's coming on to me or something, but it doesn't seem like that. If anything, she seems really shaken. There are rings in her eyes and her hair is frizzed. She sits down and takes a long drink from the water bottle she always brings with her. Deep breaths all around. And by now, we're the only people in the lecture hall. Behind us are just rows of seats with nobody in them. And the midday sun is shooting through the east wing. And she asked me if I'd been up to anything. I said no. She explains that she had been called up to the board, and they'd informed her that I would be dropped from the course because I'd been caught tagging one of the buildings. One of the faculty residences is, I think, what she said. I told her it was bullshit, and that I was going to ask the board about it. Just stay safe, she tells me. I leave, and she's just sitting there, head in her hands, looking melancholy and drowsy. I get back to the dorm, and Hugh motions me in, shuts the door, and we both sit down on the couch. He runs over the shutters, looks out, and then uses a remote to blast the volume of the QVC up. He asks if I've seen Isaiah since this morning. Now that I think about it, I haven't seen him. Nobody has seen or heard from him, and he always comes in for a sandwich from the fridge around this time. I get his pager and press it. He'll show up, I say. Sure he will. And then we just sit in the room like that for a while jewelry is advertised to us at 75 whopping decibels. The shutters are still closed. He hasn't been telling me anything, but he's over there writing something down. I think we're onto something big. Isaiah still hasn't shown up. I suggested calling the police about 30 minutes ago. Hugh grabbed my cell phone from my hands with an animal ferocity and flung it to the ground. And it's broken now. Entry 6. Hugh was passed out drunk on the couch this morning. I tried leaving, but he stopped me and locked the door. I tell him that it's time for my journalism course, that I spend most of the night awake worrying. He reminds me that I was expelled. Makes sense. He tiptoes over the shades and raises them very quietly. We both look out, and there are 20 men in suits standing in the middle of the square. The entire area has been cordoned off with yellow tape. So we've just spent most of today locked in our rooms. Quiet. Hugh went out to look an hour ago. He isn't back. Smell of smoke. Ashes wafting in now. If there are no entries after this, know that we're gone.
Is that the last one?
That's the last one.
That's the last entry?
Yep.
Oh my gosh. That left out so much. Okay, tell me why he was expelled from the class again.
Because he was on to something.
Because he was on to something?
Yeah, the board is like in with the feds. The feds are in with the board.
The men in black?
Yeah, the feds.
So Isaiah was the first one. Why was there ashes?
Because they were burning down the building. I think.
That's an interesting way to...
It'll coax you out. It'll make you leave the building.
It'll coax you out?
It'll coax you out, yeah.
I'm sure. That's so weird. And you said that all these stories were...
Yeah, at some point I think they interconnect or are already interconnected and I haven't figured it out yet.
found any connection between any. So.
Yeah.
I wonder if it'll.
Well, I think this next one will definitely make more sense towards that connection if I read this over correctly. Looks like a long one.
Oh dear Lord.
How about we throw in? Yeah, let's go ahead and throw in a quick musical interlude before we hop in to this long form thing.
What are the vibes tonight?
Good question. What are the whales singing?
Oh, you can't ask me this one.
I just did.
Oh God. Let me consult my crystal ball.
Oh, I see.
Let's see. Tell me, what are the whales singing tonight? It is not going to be anything.
You've got 5 seconds.
Oh, okay. Good old-fashioned lover boy.
Okay, cool.
Think you got that?
Yeah, that's not hard to pull up. Well, it appears that the whales are singing Queen, and, well, I'm here for it. Here we are with Good Old Fashioned Lover Boy by... And we're back. Welcome back. Everyone get cozy. Get something to drink, something to stay warm in because it's a long one.
Make sure your lights are on for this one.
I mean, only if you want to.
Only.
Personally, I like listening to things in the dark. Makes it more immersive. Like a movie theater, but without the pictures.
That's an interesting way to put it.
Yeah, that's how blind people watch movies.
Oh my God.
Originally posted on the Necrid forums, August 19th, 2003. The adage goes that if you look for anything, you'll find it. It doesn't matter what you're looking for. The moment you make your mind up to discover it, it'll make itself clear for you. This is true for most things. Though the world is vast, its contents are finite. And if something has been conceived, it will make itself clear in time. Go from being an undefined concept to a well-defined and understood reality. And if you want it, you'll get it. Only a matter of time. It's like Rule 34. I comb the racks regularly with an astute and well-versed eye, looking for old things which are not coated in spider webs, but are just old enough to elicit an uncanny quality. A few decades back, maybe. Just enough time to alienate the viewer. Any earlier than that, and the viewer has nothing to relate to. Napoleon's ghost is about as real to the participant as Grimace, but give the viewer something to care about. They'll sit up and take notice. Show the viewer a celebrity they're familiar with doing something they'd never in a million years imagined the celebrity doing, but they'll believe it because it was a while back, and who knows who did what then. Remind the viewer of what they were doing right before 9/11. Get a little deeper. Remind them that odds are there was a time that they existed when they had no idea 9/11 was going to happen. Temporarily speaking, a version of them is out there who doesn't know the significance of that date. I run a parlor of ephemera, a bijou of obscurity. I will not name names, but let me say, if you're the curious type, you will run across my establishment. I'm in your town, and I operate there, whether you want me to or not. I stock a full legal team, to clear all the tapes I screen, and on a good night, I can compete with all the big budget movie houses. Despite our location on the seamy side of town, we often see people pass through our double swing doors who you probably know. Many of them arrive here thinking they're in for a blue movie. We have some, don't get me wrong, but we have so much more. Content that is shocking, not because it offends or is connected to any rational human fear, but rather because it is hardwired by some mad programmer at a forgotten studio to unsettle. If you look for Joyce, you will find her.
Ooh.
Joyce. I found her in a bulk lot of 10 old programs, all treasures, each one ensuring hours of perverse delight for our clientele. She stood out on the case, had this sort of look in her eyes. She wasn't looking at the camera, but she wasn't looking past it either. She had her edge right on the edge of the lens, where the outside world and the celluloid world meet. I knew right away that she had the ability. No one would intentionally look there. Not unless they were trying. About the whole kit and caboodle, but especially looked forward to seeing her. She could elevate my establishment in the ratings. My lawyer sits back in his room, wondering how he wound up in such an enclosed and claustrophobic space. The building is set back in a row of other shops in such a way that the window directly behind my dear counsel gives way to only 2 inches of fresh air before it meets a featureless brick wall. The sky is up there somewhere, but he can't see it because he can't stick his head out the window. This disturbs him. He feels that either the wall behind him should be solid brick or there should be no window, as the window serves no functional purpose. I, of course, know the truth. It does serve a functional purpose, and that purpose is being to unnerve. It's doing pretty well. He's sweating bullets, and he's on his 5th screwdriver of the day. "New lot," I announce, setting them on the desk in an unorthodox fashion. 10 of these. Want you to look at them. Check them out. Get back to me on this one. This one, too. Both of them look good. I point to Joyce and to one which promised untold wonders, courtesy of the Illuminati. Neither look as if the feds could bust us for them. Of course, here ratings are non-existent. How do you rate men walking in treadmills eternally against a blank background that never changes? "You want us to get ruined? Keep it up," he says. "Can't wait to pop more of these in, subject myself to this never-ending torment. Looks like a cool group this week. Where do you find these things?" "Trade secret," I smile. Cross over to the wall and slide the tapes in, one by one. For me to know, and you to learn. Gradually. The machine takes them, duplicates them, slides the material over to the drum, and gets to work. In 5 minutes, I'll have master copies of all 10. Those will go in my vault for future generations to uncover. Before then, though, I can watch them and get some kicks out of them, while he can suffer just as much, if not more, given his persistent aversion to tapes of this nature. While he knows none of them are illegal, he always feels they should be. Through some loophole or catch. In the 8 years he's been working with me so far, though, he's never found one, and he has been acclimated to his environment either. I look him over as the machine hums silently. He's diminutive. 5'5" might be attractive for his age if he didn't drink so much. His hair is combed back and his tie is nearly choking his neck. His suit is thoroughly starched, and on the wall behind him he displays his degree, as if anyone besides myself would ever visit his office. Next to him, he keeps a personal fan. It can get hot in here sometimes, and there's very little ventilation. Just the way I like it. Closed, and no way out. I've only undergone one fire inspection since opening, and the sergeant told me that the building was fire safe. If it weren't for a few key details, it would bust into a spontaneous inferno. Life on the edge can be hard to master. As I take the tapes out and hand my counsel the originals, I reflect on how every aspect of my life and work has been precariously arranged to unsettle outsiders. The hallways outside are long and claustrophobic. They contain subtle optical illusions that make the occupant feel nauseous and displaced. The seats are barely too small. Some of them are barely too big. The projectors have been tampered with to make a grotesque noise as they spin that somebody could miss if they weren't paying attention. All part of the experience. The entire building is set into the row so that there are no glimpses of the exterior. If someone has the guts to explore past the initial chain of auditoriums, they are led into a simple yet clever labyrinth that ends at the same brick wall that my legal team is currently sitting in front of. They will come to an end and then walk back. All the while, they will be disturbed. I step into the waning day as storm clouds gather overhead. The street is empty and it's getting windy, though the summer heat continues. Soon night will fall and the lamps will come on. But in the meantime, they remain dark. The world is a place of shadows and secrets. Down the block, a few couples leave a mediocre diner. They say goodbye and get into their respective cars, then drive away from the city center, out toward the suburbs. I'm reminded of how the center is much older than the outer rim, gentrified and sterile, how the city has its own peculiar charm, and how my establishment is yet another example of a dwindling class of locales designed to give one an experience. In this, the modern age, atmosphere is so often neglected. I will keep it. It will not die under my watch. A bus pulls up like a forgotten phantom in the grainy twilight mist. Twin spotlights flood my field of vision, a ghost vessel in the fog. As I embark on the excursion, the clouds give way and the windshield is pelted by drops of all shapes and sizes, coming faster than the earth can account for. The street is now nearly invisible, washed out in a blur of pastel hues. I hand the driver my money and take a seat. On the way home, I can hear a drunken man singing a song I have forgotten the lyrics to. Outside, the atmosphere is bombarded with a stew of negative ions, battling and fighting. The scent is contagious. So that's the first part.
The first part?
Yeah, like they got like dash cuts.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, the tapes, isn't this kind of reminiscent of a story we've heard before?
Yeah, I think this is what was being referenced by that kind Southern gentleman.
The interconnection.
Yeah, the interconnection, yeah.
I wonder if in this story the diner that the narrator was referring to was the same one.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Oh, I can't wait to see where the rest of this goes.
Yeah, let's see where this goes. It's the next day. I've eaten a rigorous breakfast and come to work early, before anyone can arrive. I check my watch and dash into the closest auditorium. Room C. This one has entertained countless guests. In fact, according to popular opinion and what I hear every so often in casual whispers and murmurs, it's nearly the favorite. Something unique in each offering a separate and irreplicable experience. I slip the tape in and the projector lights up. Make sure all the switches are arranged just so, all the dials turned optimally. Yes, there it goes. I exit the booth and walk back down the narrow staircase that nobody beside myself can access. I sit down, make myself comfortable, and breathe in and out deeply. The air here is stifling. The fans overhead move too slow to circulate anything. The lights installed in the walls never completely dim. They're always visible in the corner of one's eye. I should know. I installed them. The room is large. I'm infinitesimally small. Infinitesimally tiny by comparison. The screen blinks. Okay. The screen blinks to life in a surge of photonic activity. My face is lit and I am greeted by Joyce. She sits larger than life, 30 feet above me in unparalleled quality. She is as morose and alone as I had expected given the picture on the case, but there's a spark of life about her too. She sits in a modest dress on a nondescript piece of furniture. I can't make out if it's a bed or a couch. Background is hazy, lots of noise. She sits silently a while, studying me, watching me. I watch her. Below my arms are the armrests, and on them I release profuse amounts of nerve juice. My pulse is racing and my eyes are glued to her. She's fascinating.
Nerve juice.
Probably sweat. I know that what I am seeing is nothing more than magnets and fiber optics, circuit boards glued together, chips and buttons. Somewhere out there may be the real Joyce. She's probably a lot older now, but not by much. If I passed her on the street, I could recognize her. But I never will. She lives hundreds of miles away. She has a husband, maybe children, lives in a home, goes to work. She's a real person. What I see is not her. What I see is a moment captured in time, like a mosquito trapped in amber. One snapshot into one perspective. For further information, call your travel agent. And all the while, she scrutinizes me with those endless inkwells. She's also staring right at the border, the boundary between reality and the semblance of reality. Just as the picture did. The theater begins to fade out. This happens every so often. I'm used to it by now. Usually only happens when we're not open. My clothes become transparent. The location of the theater lends itself to all manner of parlor tricks. Peculiar vibrations, disturbances in the ether, call them what you will, but they've been observed. Whether Joyce is behind this event, I can't say for sure. She remains complacent and still. The anomaly reaches its peak. The year is 1993, and I am sitting across the room from her. Outside, the sun is shining and the sky is blue. It is a bed. Next to her, there is a small bureau with lipstick and a mirror on it. Outside, I can hear nothing. There is an uncanny silence to the room. No noises outside, no noises inside, save the ticking of the clock on the wall. She's clad in a dull gray skirt and casual shoes. Her hair flows long over her shoulders, and her eyes are empty, dark, and meaningless. If they're the window to the soul, then she has none. How's it been so far? Fine, I respond without thinking about it. Granola this morning, new kind with added fiber. Also half a banana. I threw the other half away. Didn't figure I needed it. Oh, and toast with butter. My toaster is on the fritz again, but I put it in the microwave. It works roughly the same, give or take a few minutes. You? Excellent as always, she replies. Living here is the greatest decision you've ever made. Life is good. People are happy. I'm happy. Her voice is fuzzy and distant, as if she was talking to me over a cheap AM radio. She looks to the side, the first time I've seen her head move. Through this action, she becomes human, or at least something resembling human. My chest falls and I lean back in my chair, at ease. We stare at each other once more, and she remains steadfast, rigid. This world cannot be interacted with. I could no more walk out of those sliding doors than a man could taste all the salt of ancient Persia. She is remotely aware of this. I can tell by the way her face is tilted, and her expression has a note of humor to it. Sick humor. Morbid and vile. You know what, Joyce? What? I know the game you're playing. I respond confidently though the words are only partially my own. You believe the world has been written away to you by law, and that you own it and hold the rights to it, and every day is a new opportunity to take advantage of the people around you. You play them like a fiddle. I can tell by the way you behave. She uncrosses her legs, lies back, and contemplates the ceiling with those devoid shells of hers. Damn, you're good. She opens her mouth, and what comes out is not laughter, but some kind of belligerent noise, a ringing that makes the ear fall apart and the mind reel. And in this moment, I am convinced that she holds a dark secret. A secret that, if revealed, would make sense of all of this. She goes back. The noise dies down, the room fades out, and the static rises until I am surrounded by a sea of gray fiber. And then I'm reclining once more in the theater seat. It squeaks slightly as I let go of the armrests. The screen sputters out until it's a muted, dark gray, and the smell of smoke permeates the air. Behind me, the projector turns itself off. I let out a few short gasps, really knocked the sense out of me. My head is foggy as I retreat up the staircase to retrieve the tape from the slot. I put it back in its case, then walk out the back and into the vault where I keep our most successful releases. I can already tell Joyce is my kind of woman. That's part 2.
There's another?
There's another.
Oh, good lord.
Hold on, let's see how many parts there are. 3, 4, 5.
We're in for a long one, folks.
Mm-hmm. I told you, sit back. This one's a long one.
Oh, yeah. So, to my understanding, the narrator was in the theater and suddenly transported with Joyce.
Hey, man, film's a great medium.
Apparently. You know, I'm really curious now. I have to compare that first story with the tape. Modest stress. And at the very beginning, the narrator referenced he, she, they said that they knew that Joyce had the ability. And at first I thought, like, maybe, like, the it factor for acting, but with this, she has a secret. She has an ability.
Yeah, huh.
Oh, I'm really liking this one.
Yeah, this is a good one. All right, part 3. Here we go. The days pass and the bad weather continues. Every night the lights go out spontaneously, and when I walk through the hallways carrying upcoming projects or concessions, she's there with me. As the crowds pour in, many of them simply to escape the deluge, I hear her cold voice whisper in my ear, her hands on my arm. Spot the shadow of her form in the lobby, where a shadow has no right to be. There are many people here tonight. A few are gathered around the soda machine, some huddle en masse near the table, some scratch their heads as they gawk at the strange posters. I designed them on my own, made sure to incorporate nightmarish and grotesque elements, pasted in some mixed media courtesy of a local magazine I subscribed to. The key feature tonight is a gentleman with rumpled clothes. The key figure tonight is a gentleman with rumpled clothes, wearing a hat too small for his head. He hasn't shaved in a week and he has bad breath. People shun him as he steps in from the outpour and crosses the rug. He drenches it. I can tell he is a man deserving a private screening, all to himself. He takes out some crumpled money and lays it onto the counter. I smile and scoop up some free popcorn for him. Then I take him by the back and guide him past the lobby and into the row. Come here often? I ask. He walks slowly, a sign of someone cautious who looks before they leap. He'll be ideal for a certain tape I found last month. A Mondo film, which illustrates in vivid detail the slow, ritualistic process of infestation.
Oh.
Heard about it, he says. First time here. Ad and classifieds. Don't think nobody looks through them no more. He's lying, of course. I never place ads. He came here to escape the flood, and to get some heat. Probably hasn't read a newspaper in his life. He coughs into his elbow, wears a tattered navy jean jacket and slacks. Ideal material. In here, sir. I recite softly as I push the door open for him. He holds the popcorn and walks down the aisle, takes his hat off, and looks around in the darkness. As I stand at the door, he looks distant, fading. This one is designed to amplify the sense of perspective, such that someone in the back row will see the people in the front row as they might from an airplane, tiny and far away. This illusion took years to master, but now that it's been done, nobody can tell me otherwise. Really hurts your head. I head up to the booth and take out the Mondo tape. The wheels turn and he sits down there, motionless. My work here is done. I return to the lobby and escort the other guests to their rooms. Soon, the process is complete. All the auditoriums are packed, save the one with the lonesome wanderer. And it looks as if business is doing better than it has in years. The night wears on, and outside the street is pelted with rain. The lobby is illuminated by a few bulbs, but every corner is filled with shadows, and the cash register's monitor glows a dark blue-green before me. The popcorn smells delicious tonight. I take a single kernel from the machine and try it. My lawyer walks down the stairs and pauses to admire the posters. He puts his hand to his brow and lets out a deep sigh. My determination is what unnerves him, my ceaseless, business-like acumen. In his hand, he holds a suitcase, probably full of more tapes. Tapes which could potentially land him in prison. He knows they won't, though. He won't be getting off that easy. Good crowd tonight. Sure is, I respond. Doesn't happen so often anymore. The house getting packed. We've gone under the radar. Only makes these nights a whole lot sweeter by contrast. Right now, 200 people back there, with their eyes affixed to analog wonders. Does the heart good. I cross to the back and get a soft drink from the fridge. Water droplets have condensed on its surface. I tilt my head back and let it run down my throat. Your heart, maybe, he mumbles with a bitter tone. You're the one getting paid. I get the scraps. And what about them? Do they matter to you? Are your torture chambers functioning properly? Is your sick mind satisfied with your designs? Have you given any consideration to them? From behind us comes a loud scream, though whether it was artificially produced is uncertain. This is followed by a few moments of soft moaning. Makes me sick, he finishes. Hey, hand me one of those. I comply. He takes it and swallows the whole thing, then tosses the bottle in the trash can and walks out the door. His footsteps echo down the street and make little noises in the puddles before the entrance swings shut on pneumatic hinges, and I'm left alone in the lobby with nothing but my own thoughts. The fans spin overhead, creating a hypnagogic effect. And outside, the rain continues, obscuring everything but 3 feet of sidewalk and a fire hydrant. Roll credits. To entertain myself, I pull out my ledger and start calculating my profits and expenditures. I didn't tell him this because if I did, he'd probably quit on the spot, but I'm very close to going under. Variations in the ether, no, the tax man comes, and when he comes with a vengeance. Tonight's crowd, it seems, has delayed the inevitable. My thoughts are interrupted by the creaking of chairs and the encroaching footsteps. How time flies when you're doing simple arithmetic. The people filter out like sheep from a gate. Their faces are wrinkled and disgusted. They groan. A few pop their backs. A group of college kids with piercings and fashionable outfits express their angst by looking around like rabbits in a trap. Some feign etiquette by waving at me and thanking me for a good time. I wave back and tell them to come again soon. They exit. The man I pushed into the premium viewing comes out. He is the most shaken of all, perhaps. His eyes are like a rabid dog's. They twitch and buzz as he stares morosely at the red carpet. I know her. He trembles and sways. Know who? That woman. The one in the room. Talks to you very slowly until you give up. Don't ask me how, but I do. That's impossible. I scoop myself a bag of popcorn and sit down. You weren't watching anything about a woman in a room. It was about ant torture and the like. Gruesome stuff, yes, but nothing like what you describe. He pulls his hat over his eyes and buttons his coat. He wants to make it a hasty exit. Watch yourself, he crows, pointing in my direction, looking out at the rain, backing towards it. She's trouble. He makes a mad dash for the door, pushes it open, and runs like a bolt. I eat my popcorn.
Well.
That was part 3.
Well.
Spooky.
A private screening for that man, and
yeah.
he knows her.
But he doesn't know how. Isn't that something?
We all have deja vu from time to time.
Yeah. With a Mondo film? Alright. You got some weird dreams if you have deja vu from Mondo films. Anyways, part 4. Another day rolls around. As I unlock my facility, I'm tempted to view the tape again. It's a morbid curiosity, or as Poe put it, the imp of the perverse. Joyce is an imp, all right. She's the devil in disguise. The lobby is dusty. I can't remember the last time I vacuumed. Not worth taking care of. Dust finds a way in no matter how much you try and keep it out. I wander upstairs, the calm whir of the air conditioners surrounding me in every direction, the walls closing in. I reach my office and look inside. It's a modest room, nothing to write home about, but it is important to me. I cross it and head back to the vault. The vault is located in an area so close to the end of the building that the distance isn't worth mentioning. It's greased and locked tight. It's equipped with a lock that even the best locksmith couldn't break, and it's filled with my hoard. Joyce is staring at me. She looks chipper as I carry her over to the screening room 4 and pop her in the slot. She was in the vault last night, I'm sure. I had planned on showing her, but I hadn't taken her out yet. Lawyers still hadn't cleared her for safe release. I'm not sure if I ever feel safe showing her. Myself. She might be too dangerous even for me. The screen flickers on, and I clutch my box of candy. The apprehension is killing me. The tension is like a thread about to be snapped by the fates. In the anechoic darkness, my respiration is amplified tenfold. I know she'll come on, and she'll be the same old video vixen. That's the most horrifying part, the certainty of it all. No surprises, no viruses. Just spool upon spool of wound reel over plastic, currently zooming over an optical drum at a few hundred rotations a second. Hello, I whisper as the film starts. This time, there are no disturbances. I am still aware of the chair behind me and the general room around me, though my mind is still whisked far away, and my concentration on the events presented before me is nearly absolute. The candy falls to the floor and spills. I'll clean it later. Joyce gets up and walks out the door. The same door I saw earlier leading out to the yard. She beckons for the camera to follow her, and like an obedient pet, it does. Now I catch a new perspective. On the lawn is a white trash bag, framed ever so quaintly by a hedge of juniper bushes and a lattice fence. A suburban paradise is disrupted by Joyce's footsteps on the lawn. She nears the trash bag, kneels, and touches it. Looks at her hand, almost in disbelief. There's something inside, something large. Overhead, an airplane can be heard. She leaves the scene, and I am left staring at the bag and its mysterious contents. And the camera operator is silent. I wouldn't be surprised if she rigged it to look as if there was someone behind it. She's clever. She reappears on the right of the frame a few moments later carrying a shovel and a barrel. It's heavy, going by how she lifts it. She moves everything into place, and the scene is set. She loads the bag over her shoulder and drops it into the barrel. A violent hissing sound is produced, and a cloud of steam comes from the vat's insides. She cautiously backs away until the noise and fumes subside. She takes the lid, twists it on, making sure it's sealed, and then gets to work with the shovel. For an indeterminate amount of time, she messes up the grass, creating a hole that's so deep she can step into it and disappear. When she hears an abrasive clanking sound, she knows she's hit bedrock, gives it a rest. She climbs out and then rests as the midday sun bears down and the juniper bushes wave in the breeze. Once she's taken a breather, she gets back up and piles the dirt on top, inspecting the grass, making sure no one will disturb it. She calls the camera over again and points down, and it looks like she's done a pretty good job. The lawn is a lawn, nothing more. The area where the hole was is now covered with healthy turf. She looks into the camera, holds her hair and smiles, and then it ends. I think I know what was in the bag, but I don't want to acknowledge it. It's part 4, I think.
You think?
Might have been 6 parts, but that was definitely that's that part.
In the first story, regarding the tape, wasn't it labeled Joyce?
I don't know if it was labeled.
I could have swore it was.
It might have been. I'd have to look.
I really need to compare.
So you're taking notes.
Oh yes, of course. I'm invested in this one.
Okay.
As soon as you said that the stories were connected. I just remember from the first one, the first story regarding the tape, it was just her in the room with a fan, but it wasn't a fan.
But it wasn't a fan.
Now to have this extra, that would be fantastic. Another story about her?
Yeah. Next part. The next few days, don't see the return of the crowds. They're business days. That could explain it. An elderly couple who look like they've done some substances in their time. A bubbly college student who asked for the jumbo-sized popcorn. She doesn't know it's the same size as the large. And a local rapper who's put out 10 albums, none of which have sold. I don't play choice for any of them because my lawyer has yet to clear it. Now that I consider it, he hasn't been in the office as of late and hasn't returned any of my calls either. Probably bitter about something, as usual. Around 3, I make a mental note to call him again as soon as possible. As the evening comes and the street is shrouded in scarlet mystery, I become sentimental. I turn on the old stereo in the corner. Ballroom stuff. Light orchestral jazz. Little big band toss in there. I waltz around in the lobby, admiring my life's work. I opened this portal a long time ago, and in that time I've never regretted it. The room darkens, the ether shifts again, and I'm alone in a void where things that would otherwise be neutral are now hysterical. I begin laughing like a madman until I hear the door open and find myself behind the desk once again. The tape has ended, and it's night. There's nobody in the room with me. From behind me, the stereo crackles, and without thinking, I switch it off. Deafening silence. Only the ticking of the clock. Outside, the moon is covered by an encroaching fog, and the lights become signals from beyond. I am alone in a room with a ghost. The ether moves just a little. If I blinked, I would miss it. But there it is, all the same, a minor dilation in time and space. The corner of a poster is slightly offset, the wall caves in. She's in here with me. I realize as I stand completely still, and my hands stick to the counter, coated in sweat. She's in here, right now. And I know she's in here, and she knows she's in here, and she probably even knows I know. The Leith Spectre, as I mentioned earlier, has been making small cameos around the premises for a week or so before now. Now she's approaching me at an unprecedented rate, making her presence known. Above me, the fan spins, and though it spins, the air does not circulate. It remains where it's at. Outside, I can see only one store window, one distant light in that dark abyss, one recourse for safety. As I stare at it, it turns off, and the sole occupant of the world beyond Joyce packs up shop. There will be no easy excuses tonight. She reaches the counter and grasps one kernel of popcorn with her insubstantial fingers. It vanishes into nothing as it journeys down her invisible digestive tract. I hear her shoes on the carpet, her dress rustling against the pane of glass. I can smell her perfume. She is intoxicating and ever-present, and half of me wants to abandon my mind and leave this world before it crushes me, and half of me hopes to waltz with her on the street outside. She materializes before me. It is a slow process. On her end, it looks painful. First, she's only a few blips of static. Then it gets fuzzy, and she becomes a woman, though an ill-defined one. Her form is hard to pin down. It's hard to say where she ends and space begins, because she is a product and not a person. She's not living as you and I would define life. Rather, she is a collection of memories, spouted by a madman on the edge of reality. She looks into my head and rummages around, and all the while my face drips and my bones are locked in place. What do you like? What don't you like? Where are you now? She looks at me from a broadcast antenna on a lonely rural hill 1,000 miles away with those silent, dead eyes. It's hard to read her. She could lunge at me at any second, but it never comes. She stands and waits. I'm reminded here of a futile carnival game I played once, a long time ago in my youth. Get the ring on the bottle. But the ring is only the size of the top of the bottle. Try as much as you want, but it'll always bounce off, and you'll never win the big prize. Here, the big prize is my sanity, and Joyce is the bottle, taunting me to take things one step further. She walks around a while. Her eyes don't focus on any one object, but as she moves, she wipes thread after thread of reality from my field of vision. She gets behind the desk, crawls over the counter, and the popcorn machine vanishes. The cooler and the cash machine follow, buzzing out. She's behind me now, her fingers on the back of my neck, her hot electric breath turning my skin into plasma. She smiles. I blink, and she sits across from me in an old patio armchair. The year is 1993, and the house is from 1993, and the scenery is just as constructed as ever. We're spinning around some drum operated by a mad god at speed incomprehensible to the human mind, read by an optical laser and transmitted onto the screen for the universe to know but not fully comprehend. She is reclined and staring up at the sun. It's a calm day, and the weather is slow. The grass is lush and alive. 3 yards from my chair, there's a large hole. On its outer rim, there's a white plastic trash bag. 2 feet from that, there's a barrel filled with a steaming liquid. Joyce pauses, looks over at the bag, and grins at me. Want to have a look? With a flutter of her eyelashes, she beckons. I know you want to see it. Don't lie to me. I know you. You're a vulture. You live on the sick and the macabre. You have no limits. What's one dead body, one hole filled with dirt, one pleasant day captured forever? She stands and sets her drink on the table, then looks down. As much as I don't want to, as much as every fiber of my being is telling me I shouldn't, I succumb to the inevitable and follow suit. I join her at the edge of the hole, and she grasps the strings of the bag and pulls them apart. My eyes are drawn to the opening. Inside is the body of my lawyer, dismembered and deformed. He is screaming, but no sound is coming from his lips, which have been acidically charred. His scalp is bare. His teeth are loose. His arms and legs are everywhere. Though the sight horrifies me, I do not react. Perhaps it is a property of this dream world, this nether reality. Perhaps I react to the sight. Would it be break the script? You'd break the script. Whatever the reason, I stand next to Joyce and look in the bag, and my mind is devoid of thought, my body devoid of action. She ties the bag shut and dunks into the barrel. A violent hissing sound escapes. The year is 1993, and I'm witness to a murder. Joyce takes her shovel and fills the hole up, taking extra care to keep the grass flat and featureless, knowing that the hole is so deep that no one will find it, that her husband has been plucked from the future and brought to the past, and that, at last, she is at peace. She watches me with a quiet look. We have a mutual understanding now. The year is 1993, and Joyce fades in the background. So much static and so many particles across a cathode ray. It is the present, and I am standing behind the counter.
Oh my.
Oh, we're not done yet.
I adore this woman.
That's a choice. The fog remains, but the theater burns like the edifice it is to the ground. It shouldn't burn with such ferocity, such intensity, given the condensation, but it is a portal. It is also a kind of hell. So the mention of disposal is fitting. I stand outside with a book of matches and the last drink in my hand, the only proof that the establishment ever existed. I watch as the building crumbles, and I run while the fire engine comes around the corner to collect the remains. It will be their funeral, I think, as I run around the corner, take a long, cold swig, and dash into the night. Perhaps forever. Time will move on. Like the last boards, will be carted off in some ambulance stretcher, and memory, like all things, will give way to uncertainty and confusion. In time, I too will become a celluloid specter. I'll be found in a closet, I'll be tested and printed, and if luck serves me, I'll be remembered in some small way. I round the corner, and there she is to greet me, taking my hand as we would journey together into the unexplored night. The streets end, and the world fades away. We're left with only the memories of the world we knew, and the eternal blue mist, the ether of yesterday, and the ether of tomorrow. And that's it. That's the whole thing.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
No, that absolutely has to do previous
Let's see.
story.
Yeah. Let's see.
The fan.
Let's see. Does it say the name on it?
Oh,
It doesn't mention the name, actually.
it doesn't?
No, it just says that it definitely wasn't a DVD. But it does very well connect with The Collector,
Yes, absolutely. Oh,
which is one about a burned down theater with a tape that says Joyce on it.
see? Yes. I knew it. Yep.
Ah!
I knew it.
Huh. Isn't that something?
The narrator of that story reminds me a lot of you.
Yeah, I could see that.
The goal to unnerve.
Yeah.
You did a great job, too.
Thank you. I try. I try to channel the spirits through me.
Was that why that other man wanted the tape?
Quite potentially. I don't know. Hard to say.
Because Joyce is an entity.
Yeah. No, yeah, definitely.
Oh, that is fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah. For those of you with creepy stories, after we finish our delve into the Hypnagogic Archive, feel free to send them in to lycaeusfrequency@gmail.com. That's LYCAEUS frequency@gmail.com. We've come to the end of our show tonight.
Oh,
Yeah.
wonderful one. I loved this one.
I'm sure. It's definitely an interesting thing. But for all of you nighttime owls, this is our good night and good morning to you. May your dreams be filled with terror and probably something else weird. That's all from us, folks. Have a good night.
KFUG, Crescent City, 101.1 FM, KFUG Radio.org. KFUG.